It's 6 p.m. on Thursday here in Korea. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Hwang Ji-hye. These are the top stories we're following this evening. The Korean economy grew a mere 0.3% in the April to June period from the previous 3 months, marking 5 straight quarters of 0% range growth. And to prop up such sluggish growth, Korea's rival parties might be heading towards a major breakthrough, over passing a bill on extra budget worth around $10 billion. And today marks the midpoint of the hottest period of the summer according to the lunar calendar, and we take a look at how Koreans battle the heat on this day. The Korean economy has slowed more than expected in the April to June period. The central bank attributes the snail-paced growth to the recent MERS outbreak and the drought, but with even slowing exports, concerns grow that a low growth might now be a trend in Korea. Our Shin Se-min has our top story.
The Korean economy grew 0.3% in the second quarter, a sharp slowdown from the 0.8% gain in the first 3 months of this year. It also marks an extension of the 0% range growth posted for 5 straight quarters. The Bank of Korea said Thursday that the MERS-hit economy saw a small increase in consumption by domestic residents, while a nationwide drought battered the agricultural sectors.
Although the agricultural and fisheries sectors are a small portion of the total GDP calculation, a drop of over 11% across both sectors did have an impact on second quarter growth.
Experts say at this pace, Korea may not be able to hit the BOK's growth forecast of 2.8%, recently shaved down from 3.1%.
There needs to be another economic threshold as exports, which used to be a driving factor for the economy, are eating at the already slow-growing economy.
From a year earlier, the Korean economy expanded 2.2%, growing at its slowest pace in more than 2 years. While the central bank was optimistic that the economy would pick up in the second half as the effects of the MERS outbreak and the drought have receded, it stayed mum on the possibility of another growth rate cut in the latter half of the year, saying that the second quarter growth figure is slightly lower than expected. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
And over at the National Assembly, with just a day before this month's extraordinary session ends, the deputy floor leaders of the two main rival parties have reached agreement on a bill for a $10 billion budget supplement. The ruling Saenuri Party agreed to consider raising the corporate tax rate and to work on the specifics before the vote scheduled for tomorrow. In exchange, the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy agreed to separate the budget bill from debate on a spy agency scandal. However, the NPAD has not backed away from its demand for a parliamentary hearing on allegations that the spy agency wiretapped citizens. Now, South Korea says it will support a joint Liberation Day celebration with North Korea if civic groups from the two Koreas reach an agreement on the matter today. A high-level government official says Seoul is trying to improve inter-Korean ties through civilian exchanges, which is why it approved the South Korean group's request to visit the North. If the two sides agree to co-host an event, it will be the first time in 10 years that the two Koreas celebrate Liberation Day together. Now, the man in charge of North Korea's propaganda department, Party Secretary Kim Gi-nam, has reappeared after disappearing from public view in April. The Korean Central News Agency reported Thursday that the 86-year-old escorted Kim Jong-un to a museum to mark atrocities committed by U.S. forces during the Korean War. His absence heightened speculation that Kim Jong-un's younger sister, Kim Yo-jong, had taken over the party's propaganda department because of Kim Gi-nam's failing health or as a punishment for negligence in his work. Kim Gi-nam has worked in the propaganda department since the 1960s and is seen as a key player in legitimizing the hereditary succession of 3 generations of Kims. A group of American lawmakers has condemned Japan's attempts to whitewash history and its claims to Korea's easternmost island of Dokdo. They gathered today at the close of a conference in Washington hosted by a Korean-American civic group. Our Kim Hyun-bin reports.
A group of U.S. lawmakers is urging Japanese Prime Minister Shin Se-min to offer an apology for Japan's use of Korean women as sex slaves before and during World War II. At the opening of the Korean-American Grassroots Conference in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday, U.S. Republican Congressman Ed Royce came out strong, saying that he does not want to see Japan whitewash history anymore. He added that the sex slave issue should be part of school textbooks in Japan. Royce also touched upon Japan's claims to Korea's easternmost island of Dokdo, saying that anyone who studies history knows Dokdo is part of Korean territory. Congressman Mike Honda echoed his views, saying that Tokyo needs to offer a sincere apology for the comfort woman issue, and reiterated Royce's statement about including both issues in school textbooks. 13 members of Congress attended the conference, promising to do all they can to urge Japan to issue an apology for its past wrongdoings. The conference, organized by Korean American Civic Empowerment, aims to strengthen Korean Americans' political power. The Korean delegation was led by Saenuri Party lawmaker Na Kyung-won, along with a handful of other lawmakers. More than 200,000 women, mostly Koreans, are believed to have been forced into sex slavery by the Japanese military before and during World War II. Experts say time is of the essence, as there are only 48 surviving Korean comfort women who are still alive. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Donald Trump, the flamboyant American billionaire and Republican presidential hopeful, has criticized South Korea for relying on the United States for defense when it has plenty of money of its own. He has built himself a reputation as a straight talker, but he might want to get his facts straight about this particular matter. Our Sun Jung-in has more.
During a campaign speech in South Carolina this week, Donald Trump said Saudi Arabia makes $1 billion a day and yet receives protection from the U.S. military without giving anything back in return. He then mentioned South Korea, only to be cut off by a member of the audience who apparently shouted the word crazy.
South Korea, crazy is right? Who said that? Stand up. Stand up. He said it's crazy. It's true. It's true. It's crazy. They make $1 billion a day.
Trump is believed to have insinuated that South Korea was enjoying a free security ride on U.S. taxpayers' money when it is making a lot of money on its own. However, Trump's remarks clearly show he's oblivious to the fact that the South Korean government has long shared the cost of stationing U.S. forces here. Also, it's a widely held view that the American military presence on the Korean peninsula is in line with U.S. national interests, raising questions over his insight and legitimacy on foreign policy. Trump's popularity has surged among Republicans following a series of blunt comments over recent days. Political watchers say Trump's remarks about South Korea and his verbal attacks on undocumented Mexican immigrants are mostly a strategy to draw more attention to his campaign. Sun Jung-in, Arirang News.
Now shifting gears, commodity prices are expected to remain weak this year. This is according to a report by the World Bank, which forecasts average energy prices such as crude oil and natural gas to fall nearly 40% in 2015 from the previous year. The bank attributes the decline to abundant supplies. Energy prices rose 12% in the first quarter thanks to an increase in oil prices, which offset losses in natural gas and coal. However, despite an upward revision for the price outlook for oil this year, the report said prices could remain weak in the medium term due to large inventories and rising output from OPEC members. The report added that higher than expected production from non-OPEC countries could also pose a threat. Now, Korea's largest car maker, Hyundai Motor, has unveiled a disappointing report card for the second quarter. The automaker posted a net profit of around $1.5 billion, down 24% from a year earlier. Its operating profit also slipped more than 16% to stand at $1.5 billion, while sales fell 0.3% to just under $20 billion. Hyundai said it sold about 1.2 million cars in the second quarter, down nearly 3% from a year earlier. The fall in earnings comes on the back of stronger competition at home and abroad, as well as the appreciation of the won against other currencies. The sales figures for Apple Watch were shrouded in mystery again when Apple released its quarterly earnings this week, but a market researcher, Strategy Analytics, has an estimate which is higher than expected. The firm says Apple sold 4 million watches in the second quarter, taking up over 75% of the global smartwatch market. Samsung Electronics follows behind with just 8%. The researcher says the whole smartwatch industry, which also includes LG and Motorola, posted sales of over 5 million units in the April to June period. Korean men are working until well after the official retirement age of 60, which is especially worrisome because it indicates they may be scrambling to prepare for life in what should be their golden years. Connie Kim has the details.
Korea is known for having some of the longest working hours in the developed world, but now it looks like Korean men retire at the highest age too. A report by the Korea Labor Institute on Thursday shows that the average Korean man works until he's almost 72 years old, more than 6 years than the OECD average. Japanese men were second on the list at nearly 70, followed by Switzerland, Sweden, and the US. Considering that Korea's official retirement age is 60, men are working more than a decade longer than they're supposed to. What's concerning is the employment rate for middle-aged men between the ages of 55 and 64 was close to 80% in 2014. Now that's the second highest in the OECD and second only to Japan, which is at more than 81%. The institute says the high figures show that most Korean men are not prepared for retirement and must continue to work to support their family. To ease a problem, the institute calls for a balanced employment model. Currently, Korean men between the ages of 27 and 54 work the most. The report suggests distributing work hours to 40 hours a week for men between 27 and 54, 30 hours for men between 55 and 60, and less than 20 hours a week for men older than 65. Other experts suggest strengthening the social safety net to give the elderly a better employment and welfare system. The issue is pressing for Korea as a proportion of people ages 65 and over is expected to be more than 40% in 2040. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
President Park Geunhye invited the Korean athletes, officials, and volunteers involved in this year's Gwangju Summer Universiade to her office for a luncheon this afternoon, congratulating everyone for bringing Korea its first place finish in the Games. She said they demonstrated Korea's potential and capacity to the world. The president also talked about the international recognition of Korea's cultural capacity, as well as the country's ability to host international events. Looking ahead, President Park asked the athletes to keep up with the hard work as they prepare for next year's Summer Olympic Games in Rio and Korea's hosting of the Pyeongchang Winter Games in 2018. Today is Jungbok here in Korea, meaning it's the midpoint of the hottest part of the summer according to the lunar calendar. On this day, Koreans traditionally head to a samgyetang restaurant to have chicken ginseng soup to get extra energy to battle the heat. But as our Han tells us, there are also many other healthy foods that will give you a boost when the mercury rises.
This is the traditional Korean dish samgyetang, stuffed with rice, ginseng, garlic, and other herbs. The chicken ginseng soup, with its unique fresh taste, is the must-have meal for Koreans during the scorching summer heat.
The various oriental herbs in samgyetang help warm up the body by boosting blood circulation.
The chicken soup is good, especially for people who suffer from cold hands and feet. But if your body holds on to heat well, samgyetang may not be the best way to recharge your energy during the summer. If you're one of those people, you might want to try eel soup or broiled duck, which help cool the body down. Seafood can also help you stay healthy during the hot weather. Octopus is especially good for people who get tired easily, as its taurine acid helps strengthen liver functions. For the elderly or children, high-protein and low-fat abalone or croaker are recommended to boost the immune system.
Seafood has the unique function of counterbalancing. During the summer, it helps your body maintain the necessary balance.
If you have a weak metabolism or your body swells up easily, doctors suggest avoiding the kinds of food Koreans enjoy to beat the heat. They say for those people, fruit and vegetables that hydrate you and provide a good supply of vitamins are the perfect summer health food. 한다은, Arirang News.
And that brings us to the end of our newscast. More updates coming up at 10 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned and goodbye for now.